I've come to a terrible conclusion, one of those that hits you in the shower and forces you to sit on the floor while the water pours over you. After reviewing my expenses from last month, I realized that between Netflix, Max, Disney+, Sky Showtime, Prime Video, and that movie subscription, which I only used to watch a 3-hour Icelandic film about a sheep farmer, I'm paying more than my parents used to pay for the premium cable package with 200 channels they never watched. And the worst part is, I hardly watch anything either. My bank statement looks like the end credits of a Marvel movie, an endless parade of logos. I went from cutting the cord to be free, to getting tangled up in a digital web that's much more expensive and sticky. The promise was simple and beautiful. Pay a flat fee and get access to a universe of unlimited content. No ads, no exploitative contracts. We were the rebels, the cord cutters, fighting against the evil empire of cable companies. Today, those rebels have become the new empire. Or rather, its confused and overwhelmed subjects. The streaming utopia turned into a dystopia of subscriptions, and I have the horrible feeling that it was all a calculated mistake from the start. How did the solution end up becoming an even bigger problem? To understand the mess we're in, we have to travel back in time, to that glorious era of the mid-2010s. You remember, right? Binge-watching was the new Olympic sport. Discovering Breaking Bad on Netflix wasn't just watching a show, it was a cultural rite of passage. House of Cards and Orange is the New Black made us feel like we were witnessing the birth of a new art form, a prestige television freed from the shackles of advertising and fixed schedules. The enemy was clear and tangible, the cable company, that evil entity with customer service designed by Satan himself, bundling 50 infomercial channels with the one channel you actually wanted to watch. Netflix was our Luke Skywalker, an unlikely hero who was going to free us from the clutches of that corporate Darth Vader. The nostalgia for that era is powerful because it felt like a victory for the consumer. For about €10 a month, we had a catalog that seemed infinite. It was an all-you-can-eat buffet of pop culture, and we gorged ourselves to the point of exhaustion. The fear of missing out, the famous FOMO, wasn't about not catching the latest episode live, but about not being part of the global conversation around the show, of the moment that everyone was binge-watching over a weekend. They sold us a revolution. But what if that revolution was just the first phase of a much bigger and less friendly plan? Every major Silicon Valley company needs its own founding myth, that almost biblical story that's told over and over again. Netflix's is legendary. It's said that Reed Hastings got the idea after Blockbuster charged him a $40 late fee for returning the movie Apollo 13. An injustice. From that personal frustration, a business model was born. DVDs by mail with no late fees. The brilliant move, of course, was the transition to streaming in 2007. It was a masterstroke that wiped out Blockbuster and changed entertainment forever. They presented their service as the ultimate solution to a problem we all hated. The irony is so thick you could cut it with a knife. The company that was born to eliminate abusive fees and predatory business models is now a pioneer in finding new ways to squeeze us. Price hikes, ad-supported plans, cracking down on shared passwords, and, most painfully, removing content from their own platform. Reed Hastings himself in a 2022 interview admitted that he knew the ad-supported model was inevitable, comparing it to traditional television. The revolutionary had become the king he swore to overthrow. Was the Apollo 13 find the catalyst for a utopia, or simply the excuse to build a better designed trap? Here's the real trick. The open secret of the tech industry over the past decade. The growth at all costs model. For years, Wall Street didn't care whether Netflix or any other streaming service made money. The only metric that mattered was subscriber growth. The goal wasn't to be profitable, it was to be the last player standing. To achieve this, they invested absurd amounts of borrowed and investor money to acquire content and, above all, to acquire us, the users. The customer acquisition cost was extremely high, but it didn't matter as long as the number of new subscribers kept rising every quarter. They subsidized our entertainment for years. Those €10 a month didn't even come close to covering the cost of producing The Crown or buying the rights to Friends. We were living it up at a party paid for with the venture capitalist's credit card. But, as we all know, the party always ends, and someone has to pay the bill. Once they had secured a massive user base and got us used to their ecosystem, the strategy changed. The era of growth gave way to the era of profitability. And profitability, my friends, means raising our prices, showing us ads, and charging us for features that used to be free. We weren't the product, we were the cattle being fattened up for the financial slaughterhouse. Isn't this exactly the same pattern we've seen in other industries? If this business model sounds familiar to you, it's because it is. It's the same playbook used by ride-sharing companies like Uber and Lyft. For years, they subsidized our rides. A trip that should have cost €20 only cost us 8, thanks to billions of dollars in venture capital. Their goal wasn't to offer a sustainable transportation service, but to wipe out the traditional taxi industry, create a duopoly, and once the competition was gone, raise prices to levels that often surpass those of the taxis they destroyed. They burned through money to create dependency. Streaming did the same thing with cable. They offered us a paradise of content at a ridiculously low price so that we would cut the cord en masse. Once the cable infrastructure was weakened and we became addicted to the convenience of click and watch, they started to tighten the screws. Disney, Warner Bros., Paramount, they all saw Netflix's success and wanted their own piece of the pie, fragmenting the market endlessly. To watch everything that used to be in one place, you now need 5 or 6 subscriptions, recreating piece by piece the hated cable bundle, but in a much more chaotic and often more expensive way. We went from a clumsy monopoly to a fragmented oligopoly. What has been the real cost of this war for our living room? The economic impact is brutal. In 2023, the entertainment industry spent more than $240 billion on content creation, an astronomical figure that has to be recovered from somewhere. And where do you think that comes from? Exactly, from our pockets. According to a Deloitte report, the average American household now has 4 streaming subscriptions, with monthly spending continuing to rise. In many European countries, the figure is similar, ranging between 40 and 60 euros per month for those who want access to the main catalogs. But the cost isn't just monetary. Let's talk about the social and psychological impact. The paradox of choice is a real phenomenon. Having an infinite catalog doesn't make us happier, it gives us decision anxiety. We spend more time browsing through endless menus, watching auto-playing trailers and adding things to My List, that digital graveyard of good intentions, than actually watching anything. The design of these platforms is optimized to keep us hooked, not to satisfy us. It's the equivalent of walking into a 1-kilometer-long supermarket just to buy a liter of milk. When the system is designed against you, what does a person do? When a corporation squeezes too hard, consumers find cracks in the system. The first and most obvious was password sharing, a practice that for years was tacitly allowed and even encouraged by Netflix. It was an easy way to get cash. Now cracking down on this practice is the new normal. The user's response: silent rebellion. A strategy known as churn and return has emerged, canceling and coming back. People subscribe to Max for a month to watch the new season of House of the Dragon, binge it, and then cancel. The next month, they subscribe to Disney Plus to watch the latest Marvel release. We've become digital nomads, jumping from service to service. And of course, we can't ignore the elephant in the room. Piracy, which seemed like a relic of the past, is experiencing a revival. When content is too expensive, too fragmented, and hard to find, people look for simpler alternatives. I'm not condoning it, but it's a direct symptom of a broken market. It's the ecosystem's natural response to a predator that has become too greedy. Why don't governments do anything to regulate this chaos? Here lies one of the keys to the problem: a gigantic legal vacuum. Cable companies and traditional television networks were and are subject to a ton of regulations. Rules about competition, public service obligations, consumer protection. Streaming, on the other hand, operates in a kind of limbo. They're not considered broadcasters or cable companies. They're tech companies. This simple change of label allows them to dodge decades of legislation designed to protect consumers. They can raise prices overnight, introduce ad-supported plans without prior notice, and most seriously, permanently remove content from their platforms without any consequences. There is no regulatory body telling them, hey, you can't sell people access to a library and then burn the books whenever it's convenient for you to save on taxes. This lack of oversight has given them free rein to experiment with their business models. And we are the guinea pigs. Isn't it ironic that they sell us convenience when what they're really selling is fear? Convenience was the initial bait, but the engine that keeps the system running now is fear, FOMO. Platforms no longer sell a catalog, they sell cultural events. You have to subscribe to HBO just to be able to talk about The Last of Us at the office. You need Disney Plus to understand the memes about The Mandalorian. Each platform has its crown jewel, its event series or movie, and they use it as a hostage to keep you paying. They make you feel that if you cancel your subscription, you'll be culturally isolated, left out of the conversation. It's a brilliant and twisted form of marketing. We're no longer buying a product, we're buying a membership, a temporary social club. The magic solution they're selling us isn't unlimited access, but rather not feeling left out. And that's a very powerful and very profitable human need to exploit. But what happens when the exploitation goes too far and turns into a de facto scam? The point of no return, the ultimate betrayal, came when Warner Bros. Discovery, under the leadership of David Zaslav, began purging original content from its platform. HBO Max, now just Max. Critically acclaimed series like Westworld and completed films like Batgirl were removed, not because they were bad, but to get a tax deduction. Let me repeat, they erased art forever just to save money. This shattered the implicit pact we had with the platforms. We believed we were accessing a permanent digital library. The reality is that we're only renting, and the landlord can demolish the building with you inside and without any warning. This triggered immense outrage, not just among fans, but also among creators. The 2023 SAG-AFTRA writers and actors strikes centered on this very struggle. Fair compensation, the famous residuals in the streaming era, where success metrics are opaque and series can simply disappear. The platform sold us a future of creative stability and gave us a present of financial precarity. How is it that despite all this, the user experience still feels so addictive? The user experience design on these platforms is a masterpiece of behavioral psychology. Infinite scrolling, trailers that play automatically, categories personalized by an algorithm that thinks it knows you better than your own mother. Everything is designed to keep you on the platform for as long as possible. It's the logic of a slot machine applied to entertainment. Each scroll is like pulling a lever, hoping the next title will be the jackpot. The algorithm, in theory, should help us discover hidden gems. In practice, it often traps us in a bubble, recommending variations of what we've already watched. If you watched a romantic comedy, get ready to see a carousel of romantic comedies for the next 3 weeks. The design gives us the illusion of control and infinite choice, while in reality, it subtly guides us down very narrow corridors. They dress up a hostile system with a pretty and smooth interface. If the whole system is designed to trap us, there are emergency exits. The good news is that there are alternatives. The first, as I mentioned, is the churn and return strategy. Be an unfaithful consumer. You don't owe any corporation your loyalty. Plan what you want to watch and only subscribe when you need to. Second, explore free ad-supported streaming services, known as FAST, which stands for Free Ad-Supported Streaming Television. Platforms like Pluto TV, Tubi, or Rakuten TV have surprisingly good catalogs of older movies and series. You won't find the latest Marvel release, but you will find plenty of classic films and cult gems. What does the future hold for us in this streaming war? The immediate future seems clear: consolidation and rebundling. Companies are realizing that the model where everyone goes their own way isn't sustainable. We'll see more bundles. Your phone company will offer you Netflix and Max with a small discount. The platforms themselves will merge or create bundles among themselves. Essentially, we're going back to the cable model, only with tech logos instead of the old cable company ones. It'll be Cable 2.0. In the long term, we might see some kind of regulation. As these services become essential for culture and information, governments might start treating them more like public utilities, requiring more transparency in their metrics, protections for creators, and guarantees that content can't be deleted on a whim for financial reasons. It's a slow battle, but public pressure and pressure from the creative industry are increasing. And so I return to my bank statement, to that parade of logos that remind me of the broken promise. Streaming was not a technological mistake. The technology is incredible. The mistake was the business model that drove it. An unsustainable growth bubble that sold us a paradise on credit and is now handing us the bill, with interest. The utopia of everything on demand was the Trojan horse for a more fragmented, more expensive, and ultimately more hostile system for both viewers and creators. But now I wonder, what value do we really place on the art and entertainment we consume? If you enjoyed this analysis, you'll definitely love this video about why athletes are stripping down. Yes, you heard that right.